When I got up, when I walked in here tonight, I had no idea that I was going to be standing here. So I've done a lot of practice. But I was inspired. And the person who inspired me tonight was Doc. Where is he? Is he floating around? Where is he? Okay. Well, he and I had a lot in common. We have the love of our life, our better half. We've been married for a long time. In my case, it's been to be, 47 years? My wife is down here, so if you see red fruit being thrown, you'll know where it's coming from. But not only have I been married a long time, I, like Doc, learned very quickly, actually on the first time I met my wife, that she was going to be my better half. And this is the story. We were both students. She was at Dickinson College. I was at the law school. She was in her first year. I was in my first year. The law school had given a dance, primarily to meet the college women. So I went. And I'm sitting by the wall having a beer, and I see my future wife walk up and ask somebody to dance. It wasn't me. But I thought, geez, this person either has a lot of confidence or she's easy as hell. And either way, I was bound and determined to meet her. So I did what any good person would do. You know, she was a rather bold individual. So I walked up and I cut in. Now this was one of those slow dances, you know, one of the Heine Rabbin music, you know, that you used to have in the junior high school. And I figured this is a good thing, and so I cut in, and she was not happy. She had asked this tall, handsome, good-looking guy to dance. I knew him. He was a fellow law student. And this short, ugly Irishman comes over and cuts in. Well, law students are not to be outdone by one another, so he came in and he cut back in. We're pretty competitive back in those days. So I figured I'm not going to be outdone either, so I cut in again. He gave up. So I spent the rest of the evening at the dance with her, learned that she had given up guys. I think she was just telling me that story, okay? But I stuck around. I'm like a fungus. You can't get rid of me. So at one point during the evening, they played a Beach Boys music. And she actually, I had found out she lived above in the dorm. So she said, oh, I have a Beach Boys album. I'll go up and get it. I thought, boy, I'm going to get lucky here. But I said, oh, I'll come up and join you. No, you stay here. I think she was trying to dump me. But she came back down with the music, and I reinstituted myself with her. And I walked her home after the evening was over, and I walked her to the front of her dorm, didn't even kiss her goodnight, anything. I thought that was it. But the next day, I saw her in the library. It was a Sunday, and I like to go to the college library because the view was better. So I went down, I saw her in the library, and I said, I want to ask this girl out. But I had no money. I had no money. I was poor as a church mouse. I couldn't even take her to the movies. That's how poor I was. So I thought and thought and thought, and finally, what I thought was a stroke of genius hit me. But in retrospect, what little I have come to learn about women, it was probably the dumbest thing I could have done. I asked her to go swimming at the college pool. Now, most women are not going to want to show their bodies on a first date. You know, they're a little shy about this, but surprisingly, she said yes. So I thought, this is pretty good. I'll see what I'm getting here. So our first date was at the college pool. We're having a nice time, and about halfway through our date, I said, hey, you want to swim? You want to race to the other end of the pool? Now, this was the days before I was old and fat, and I was pretty much of an athlete. I'd wrestled at Redline for 4 years, and I was a pretty good swimmer. So she sort of smiled in her demure way, and she said, okay. And she promptly beat the crap out of me. I was humiliated. I had never had a woman do that to me before. I said, what gives? Why, how can you do that? What? She said, you wanted to race. I didn't know this at the time, but she was a Maryland State swimming champion at 8 years of age. This was the hook for me, and why I learned she was my better half. She was obviously a much better swimmer, but she also knew that she was not going to quit, not going to roll over and play dead just because I'm a guy. She was a competitive woman, and I was impressed. And we have spent the last 47 years competing. As a matter of fact, just this morning, we had a big to-do because we were competing with one another. And she couldn't quit when I wanted to do something, and I couldn't quit when she wanted to do something. So that's been, we're always, that's why she's my better half. Thank you.